So I'm speaking with composer Junkie XL, aka Tom Holkenborg, who is behind the music to two big recent films, 300 Rise of an Empire, which was a huge hit, plus the highly anticipated Divergent coming up. Junkie XL also scored the film Paranoia, starring Liam Hemsworth, Harrison Ford, and Gary Oldman. He's also a frequent collaborator with composer Hans Zimmer and has worked on scores like The Dark Knight Rises and Man of Steel, providing additional music and arranging. Junkie XL is also a renowned musician, performer, and engineer, and has lots of awesome solo albums worth discovering if you haven't done so. Junkie, thanks so much for chatting today.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
So, how should I address you, Junkie or Tom? What do you prefer?
Well, you don't get born as a junkie, so call me Tom. That's
Okay.
fine.
So, to start, I would love to know what music really means to you personally, and how did you get involved in it, and what eventually led you to film composing?
Well, I grew up in a music family, so to say. My mom played violin, and she was a music teacher, and my dad was a natural musician, self-taught.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a piano in the house, so we would make music every Sunday. And I got a drum kit when I was 7. That really made the neighbors happy. I started playing guitar a little later and bass a little after that. And then when I was 16, I started working in a music store in Holland, which was, the 84, 85. And I basically got in contact for the very first time with sequencers and with synthesizers. And I knew from that point on that the combination between what I knew with a proper classical training and playing these different instruments and this computer business that was fairly new at the time, that would be my future. And I started combining the two things together, and I played in multiple different bands, and I started producing bands. And eventually, in 1994, 95, I started Junkie XL and released a bunch of records after that. And I got basically into film scoring from half 90s when somebody used some of my music in a film. And I was so blown away how it worked. And I was like, I want to learn, a little bit more about that. And so I did, and step by step, I got more involved into film scoring. I did a little bit for the first Blade and the first Resident Evil, and then I got approached by Jason Bentley, who's a good friend of mine and who is the music director here at KCRW in Los Angeles. And he was the music supervisor on the Matrix movies. So he got me a little involved in that. And I got more and more into LA. And then in 2002, I had a worldwide hit with the Elvis remix that I did.
Right.
And I thought, I need a change after this, because I've done, the Junkie XL thing, the club records. I've done it for so long, and I wanted to try something else. And I came to LA in 2003, and I basically took the back seat of the bus of film scoring, and I wanted to learn what film scoring was like from the ground up. Mm-hmm. And not just coming in and do some electronic tracks and then hire some orchestrators to do the rest, but I really wanted to learn it from the ground up. And I first worked on a couple of films with Harry Gregson Williams, which was a great teacher and a great guy to collaborate with. And then I did a bunch of alternative films from Europe, and then I ran into Hans Zimmer. Mm-hmm. And Hans and I have been collaborating on a bunch of different films, and 2 years ago I moved my studio to remote control, so I'm close to him. And from there on, it all started. And like you said, Paranoia was my first movie on my own as a composer in Hollywood. And after that came 300 and Divergent, and I'm now doing the new Mad Max.
Right, which I'm excited about, and I want to ask you about that a little bit later. But so when you started working in film, you mentioned Harry and Hans, and you still work with Hans. What is that collaborative process like? You came from a background. I mean, you had bands, but you're kind of a one-man band in a way, and now you're kind of part of this big group. Did you kind of have to adjust your process a bit?
Well, what was really appealing in film scoring for me was the team effort. It's not you on your own as a musician, but now you're part of a team.
Right.
And you have to work in a team, and you get better results because of it in a team. And I just love the endless conversations, for instance, that I have with Hans about, why certain characters are the way they are, and what the music equivalent of that should be, and how you should build a storyline, and how you should build an arc overall. And even though when it comes to albums and to live shows, you know a lot about how to build an arc, because it's not any different than a movie. But now you do it with different music, and you do it also with different characters, and a product that basically demands your full attention. A live show, it's all about me. A movie, it's all about the movie.
Right.
You know.
And I mean, you also bring a very unique background to scoring. We know you told us about your history and everything. So what's your process like? What's the first musical thing that you do on a film you're scoring? Like, what is the absolute starting point where the music origin starts? What do you do first?
Well, it totally depends per movie. It has a lot to do, obviously, with the fact that I love electronic music, and I've done a lot in that.
Right.
But I'm also a traditional musician, playing 4 different instruments, and I love sound design too. So it totally depends. Like, let's just focus on these 2 movies. Like 300, when I saw it for the first time, the sound effects were pretty far developed, and there's like a battle in the sea, and I heard the waves, and the waves sounded so awesome, and it had a rhythm to it. And I was like, I got to explore that rhythm in the waves. So basically, I took a whole chunk of the sound effects out, and I looped it, so it became like a rhythm over and over again. And then I started basically creating rhythm patterns that would really work well with the waves. So cut to Divergent. The challenge there is like, okay, we have a 16-year-old girl. The movie is shot at a first-person perspective, and as an audience, we always need to be with her.
Right.
So a completely different approach. There were no waves, there's no rhythms to design. This is purely a 60-year-old girl that goes through all these different emotions that are very, very drastic, from feeling insecure, a feeling of not fitting in, to suspense, to fear, to taking control and eventually become a heroine, to sacrifice when she loses family members. So there are all these different emotions, and how do you capture that as an audience we stick with her? Completely different approach. And in this case, I picked up the guitar and started writing the theme. So completely different approach.
Wow. And you also did, I was reading something that you did something with a piano for 300. What did you do there?
Oh yeah, well that was a nice experiment that turned out really well actually. So I had an idea to basically turn a piano into a guitar.
Uh-huh.
So I got a $50 piano, and we got a free chess set with it on eBay. So we picked it up. We bought an axe and basically just hit the shit out of the piano until everything was gone except for the inside. And then we built a whole new case around it. And then I ordered all these different guitar pickups and bass pickups, and we mounted them on the piano so we could move them around. And so it really looks like, you see the strings of the piano, and then all these guitar and bass pickups are situated on, the right positions to pick up a certain type of sounds from that string. And then all these pickups go through preamps, and then they all go into or guitar amps or bass amps, or they go straight into my computer. And I basically hit the piano then with all kinds of different sticks, from really big mallets to really small teaspoons, to get like a certain sound of it. The problem is, though, that this thing is quite dangerous because every string carries 200-300 pounds of weight. So if it's snaps, it takes your head right off. So we went online and we looked for a protection helmet, and then there was this website that sold all the security stuff, for security personnel. So
right.
we got an anti-riot protection helmet. So that's what I'm wearing when I play that instrument.
That's crazy. That's awesome, though. And also, with 300, it has a very, very, familiar visual style, and the visual aesthetic is very strong. Did the visuals, did that ever affect how you did the music for that film or any film?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Divergent is a more personal movie, and also how it's shot, so the music needs to be more personal. With 300, you can take a lot of liberties because 300 is not your bread and butter history movie. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
it's an adaptation of a comic, and it almost looks like a comic, but then with real action. So you can take a lot of liberties, I think, musically with that, and I did, and also the energy of the movie is so high octane, you know. So the music really needs to reflect that, and I feel a movie like that and where it comes from and what it tries to achieve, you know, it doesn't need long, sweeping orchestral melodies. You know, it's not, in my opinion, it's not what that movie needs. So you can take a lot of liberties, you know, in movies like that.
And it's also, it's also a franchise that you're coming into. 300 is a sequel, and so you have a first movie that was directed by Zach and composed by Tyler Bates. So did you acknowledge that into your process at all, or did you try to completely start disconnected from the first one?
I think there are a lot of similarities between the first 300 and the second 300
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the looks and when it comes to the aggressiveness of the music. Obviously, I have a completely different approach how to achieve that than Tyler Bates. But I
Right,
mean,
right.
I remember seeing that movie when it came out, and I was just like, what is this? You know, it's like I'm just blown away by the whole thing. You know, and then it was really fantastic to get that phone call 7 years after that. You know, Zach asking me if I'm up for scoring that film.
That's awesome. So now you mentioned that you're doing the new Mad Max Fury Road, which I love the Mad Max films, the post-apocalyptic genre that it kind of inspired. Throwing in a bit of a Western vibe. It's cinematic heaven for me. So was it daunting uh, taking on such an iconic franchise and kind of following in the footsteps of Brian May and Maurice Jarre? You're really making a bold statement with this film. It's going to be, it has a huge history behind it. Was it a daunting thing?
I mean, it's always scary, even though I can't say too much about this film because it's a year away from release,
Right, it's
and
still far ahead. Yeah.
I would get into trouble if I did. Um, the only thing that I can say is, you know, this movie is directed by the original director, so it feels very safe, you know, to work with somebody who invented it. You know,
Right.
it's not like somebody else will do a completely different take on it. So that's all I can say. And I have a fantastic relationship with George, and very, very interesting conversations about what this movie is going to be. And I mean, it's a very exciting movie. That's all I can say.
And can you say if you have you started working on it at all yet, or is it not even is it finished filming, or can you not say?
I mean, we're basically finishing the movie in the next 3 to 5 months, and then it comes out next year.
Wow. Well, I cannot wait. That's going to be exciting. Is it a different process for you when you're attached to a film like that very early on versus most composers come in the last the last push, and they come and have to do a score in 2-3 weeks. Is it a different? Do you have more time to experiment? Are ideas kind of percolating in your head much earlier?
Well, both are very interesting because 300 I got in really late,
Mm-hmm.
and you have such a short time period to do it that you get really really focused, and it becomes this blast of energy of like 5-6 weeks, and then it's over, and you're just like, what just happened?
Right.
you know that's how quickly it goes. And Divergent I got in way earlier in the game, and then you can experiment way more with sounds and with tones and what you want to do with the themes, and I mean, both are really great. I mean, but yeah. So when you have a lot of time, I love it because I love spending time on details and really suss the little things out. But then again, if I'm asked, it's like, I need this in 2 weeks. Can you do it? And I was like, sure, I'll do it. That's like a whole different high. And that's the cool thing about it.
If you had to pick one process or the other, what would you prefer? Early or late in the game?
It's a very slight tipping over point. I prefer early,
Uh-huh.
but like I said, I love the rush of like, holy shit, we got to do this in this many weeks.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
yep,
yeah. I
okay,
get a
let's
lot of
run.
A lot of composers are like you know you don't have if you have a deadline, you know you push yourself, and sometimes your best work comes out in that push, you know.
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, definitely.
but to wrap up, I always love to ask composers this one question: if you could score any film ever made with no disrespect to the original composer or the original score, what film would you choose?
Blade Runner.
Wow, awesome! I love how quick that was. That's no, Bobby. That's such a perfect thing for your style and everything too. I think that'd be perfect.
I mean, that is a movie I'm not looking forward to score because that original score is so absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
You know,
of
but I
course.
mean, you just asked the question like if if there weren't a score like that, you know, if you just had to pick the film, and
Right.
that would be it. I mean, I've seen that film, and the second one would be Dune. You know,
Oh,
the David Lynch movie Dune.
yeah, yeah. That's a good one too.
Yeah,
Well, those are great answers. Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time and for chatting today. It was such a great pleasure, and congratulations on all the projects. And I'm really looking forward to Mad Max. Like, I mean, I'm really excited about it. So, uh, and I hope we get to do this again sometime.
cool, man. Thanks for your time.